very honored for your invitation to participate in this. And I'm going to try to be entertaining, if anything. So let me tell you about my journey here. So as many others, and unlike you and the younger people in ICSID, I arrived at ICSID only by chance. So I was doing my LLM at Cornell, and I was looking for a job in London, where my wife was admitted for a PhD. She's smart in the family. And I had a friend who was working in a small organization of the World Bank, and we had common friends in London. So I wrote to him asking for some addresses, and he wrote back and said, "Hey, we may have openings in our organization. Why don't you send me your CV?" So that's how it started. I was hired as a short-term consultant for 6 months, and apparently I wasn't that bad. I was interviewed by whole ICSID at the time, so the 4 lawyers interviewed me, and after 6 months, they decided to keep me. Funny anecdote, halfway through my 6 months, Antonio Parra, then Deputy Secretary General, tells me, we're going to appoint you as Secretary of the Tribunal on Mafesini. First thing, I thought, well, I know nothing. Why are they appointing me as Secretary of a Tribunal? But then my smart part of the brain said, well, this case is not going to last 3 months, so I'm going to have to stay. So this is good news. And I always thought that they gave me Mafesini because it was a very small case. And that's a lesson that I will talk about later, because there are no small cases. It became a staple of international investment arbitration. So after that, I continued my journey working with the best people in the world here. I worked with 5 different Secretary Generals, 6 different presidents of the World Bank, and slowly moved from consultant to junior counsel, senior counsel, chief counsel, to end in mid-2000s as Deputy Secretary General of ICSID, a role that I never thought I would play, but I have enjoyed so much playing the last 10 years. So that's basically the journey to where I am now. Well, that's a very good question, and not an easy to answer. I always wanted to have a mentor. When I was in law school, when I played sports, all my life I wanted to have mentors. The problem is I was always the responsible one whom you put in charge of things, but you don't invite for dinner. So by 40, I decided, okay, I'm not going to have a mentor. A real mentor meaning somebody who takes you under his or her wing. But I had so many friends on the way. And I work with so many wonderful people. I mean, if I go back to the beginnings of ICSID, or my beginnings of ICSID, I have to name people like Antonio Parra, who would be the first Deputy Secretary General of ICSID, Alejandro Escobar, who's a partner at a big firm now, an international firm in Boston, in London, practicing international arbitration, Margareta Stevens, who retired recently. They were all very important in my early development as an ICSID lawyer. But also the advantage that you have when you work in ICSID, and you are living it now, is that you work with the best people in the world. And by this, I mean you work with the best people in the world here. Very, very smart and well-prepared investment experts, investment law experts. You work with the best lawyers in the world, law firms from all different regions. And you have the opportunity to work with the best arbitrators. I mean, the opportunity to sit down and work with the late James Crawford, Peter Bernardini from Italy, Emmanuel Guillard, Pedro Niken from Venezuela, Rodrigo Riamuno from Costa Rica. I keep naming people. Many of them retired. Prosper Vale. So it's an absolute privilege to work here. So who's my mentor? I have been mentored by everybody around me and by my colleagues here. Now, I have been also lucky to be called a mentor, as you said, by many. And I think if there's any legacy that I leave here, I think I have tried to help as much as I could younger lawyers. First, before doing international investment arbitration, be a good lawyer. Good lawyer, that's aviation law, that's litigation, that's securities, can be anything. We are living in a world that people say, I want to be an arbitrator when I turn 21. It didn't work that way when I started. In fact, when I started, when we were looking for appointments, we were looking for good judges. And these judges would come from the world of human rights, from international courts, would come from commercial arbitration practices in commercial venues like London, Paris. So you were not looking for experts in international investment law. So first advice, be a good lawyer. Second advice, don't look for a mentor. You will find one or you will not, and you will survive. I never got one, and I'm okay. And the relationship that you build, I have a couple of comments on that. If you are decent, if you're honest, and you're a hard worker, you will develop an important relationship. One thing that I learned through these 30 years is, which I think is very interesting, you develop a very strong bond with the president of a tribunal when it's their first case. It doesn't matter how good they are, how seasoned they are in other fields. If it's their first ICSID case, they're going to rely on you, and you will develop a friendship that lasts for a very, very, very long time. Also, if you work hard and you're decent and you focus on integrity, on your role, tribunals will start trusting you more, and you will develop that relationship. I'm very lucky to have many, many, many friends and know almost everybody in the investment arbitration world. And I was never chasing the spotlight. I was just trying to do the right thing and work hard. That's all it is. I think that in ICSID, to be a good secretary of the tribunal, the first step is to understand what's the role of ICSID. What is that we do? We're an international organization that seeks to help parties to peacefully resolve the disputes, to promote development. You need to understand that. Second, you need to understand who do you work for. You don't work for the tribunal, you don't work for the parties, you don't work for me, or you don't work as the Deputy Secretary General or the Secretary General. You work for the organization, and your duty is to protect the goals and what the organization stands for. That's the first part. And then do your work, be respectful, be attentive to the details, read the papers. Always remember that the decision makers are the tribunal members that were elected by the parties, not by you. You have to earn that trust. And tribunals, my experience with tribunals, that they're very, very open and willing and ready to work with younger people, most of them. There are two lessons that I think are interesting. And one came from my first answer is, there are no small cases. You don't know how a case is going to live. Maffesini was a small case in those days. Today would be a very small case, and it became a very important case because of the legal questions that were posed to the tribunal. I've seen in the past also very big cases that come with a big noise and political impact, and everybody's concerned about those cases, and suddenly the case in a couple of months is settled. So you never know if a case is going to have a big impact in the development of international investment law. You just treat every case the same. The other thing that I have learned, and I have seen younger lawyers say, oh no, I don't want another case with such and such company or country. And I tell them, it's not about one case. What is fascinating about international investment law and the work of ICSID is to look at the cases from 30,000 feet above and see the systemic moves. What are the trends? How it moves? Especially crisis cases. I'm thinking about the Argentinian crisis of 2001, or not to call crisis, but systemic problems like the renewable energy cases in Europe, cases started against Venezuela starting the year 2000. All of those cases, if you look at them from a holistic perspective, it's fascinating how international investment law develops. It's a complex, multifaceted question, because there's a role of the DSG as I see it, and there's a role of Gonzalo Flores as a DSG. Because again, I have been here 3 decades, so that means that I do many, many things that are not necessarily associated with my role of CSG, as mentoring people, answering questions. Has anybody seen this? Yeah, I have seen it. Have we had this experience before? Yes, I have been there. I have seen it. But my straight answer to your question, and it's a technical one, I think it's an important one. The Deputy Secretary General's role is to be ready to stand for the Secretary General when the Secretary General is not available or it's for any reasons cannot act. The Deputy Secretary General ICSID performs a lot of duties. Duties are administrative, duties that are managerial, related to the World Bank. But the key aspect of being a Deputy Secretary General is that if the Secretary General is not here, for any reason, the Deputy Secretary General should be ready to stand in and make decisions under the ICSID Convention. So I think that's the key part. I am very proud of the development of international investment law under ICSID through the past 30 years, independent of my role as Deputy Secretary General. I'm a big believer, and this may sound corny, that your role as leader is to facilitate the work of the people that work with you. It's not for them to make you look better, it's for you to help them do their job better. And I've always had this view: you do your work right, ICSID shines. If you make a mistake, ICSID is affected. So we will work as a team. But for me, the key development that I have seen, and it doesn't have to do with being a deputy, it has to be an ICSID lawyer or ICSID staff, is that we have been able to play an essential role in the peaceful settlement of international investment disputes. We receive very complex, politically charged, sensitive cases here. And the fact that they are resolved under a set of rules, under the rule of law here, that is what we do. That's the most important thing. That's what makes me proud. As I said before, young practitioners should prepare for being good lawyers and caring about the goals and the role of the organization. Many young lawyers come and say to me, it has always been my dream to do international investment arbitration. And my answer is, it was always my dream to play saxophone with John Coltrane and Dexter Gordon. That's a dream. This is a job. You have to do it well and you have to prepare. But be a good lawyer. It's there are many areas of law that are fascinating. Of course, investment arbitration has a certain glamour and charm, but it's mostly the intellectual challenge that makes it so fascinating and the positive impact that we play. So do it because you want to do something good. Do it because you want to be part of this, not because it sounds cool to have hearings in Paris, because it's a lot of work to have a hearing in Paris. It's a funny question because you don't go through life thinking of mottos, but if there are things that have driven me in the past few years, and I learned this from my first boss as a lawyer, that always do the right thing, no matter how much it hurts. Always do the right thing. At the end of the day, it pays. And always try people nicely. When I was younger, I was very arrogant, and I thought being intelligent was the most valuable thing. And then you come to this world where everybody's intelligent, and the world like everybody is smart. In international arbitration, you have so many smart people, and the only thing that's valuable is being kind. Be kind to everybody. And as I have told you, family comes first. Basically it.